education, and we hope
and on the next week. So this year is to be a fair.
I want to thank the organizers of this very important exhibition and meeting for inviting me to be present here this morning. I must say it is a learning experience for me because even though I am the Minister of Higher Education, I had not realized that there is such a large number of students in this country who are studying outside the state higher education system and are being serviced in a very professional manner. You know that 15 years ago, all the heads of state met in New York and signed what was called the Millennium Development Goals. Among those Millennium Development Goals were two items which are of interest to us today for this meeting. One is that they recommended that by 2015, all countries should have universal literacy. And secondly, they recommended that there should be gender equality. Of all the developing countries, Sri Lanka has achieved those two Millennium Development Goals. And this year we will again meet in September to find out what will be the Millennium Development Goals for the next 15 years. So at that meeting, we will also have our own objectives, as do all the other countries, developing countries in the world. Some of them have not been as successful as we have been. But they all say that the next 15 years should be concentrated on higher education and on science and technology. So we, having achieved those basic goals of universal literacy and satisfactory gender equality, must look during the next 15 years as to how we can give higher education to the maximum number of people in this country, and that too mostly in the science and technology spheres. So that is our target. Now, in terms of that target, what you are doing today is of very great use and of very great importance to this country. We have a free education system in this country. We are probably the only country in the world that is providing state education from grade 1 to PhD. Last week I was in China. I had discussions with the Minister for Higher Education in China, Professor Wang Gang. When I told him that we have free education from grade 1 to PhD, he nearly fell off the chair. Because in China now, which is considered the most socialist advanced country, they give free education only up to grade 9. Education is provided by the state only up to grade 9, free of charge. From then on, every Chinese citizen has to pay for higher education. In other words, if you put it together or juxtapose it with the Sri Lankan situation, they provide free education up to grade 8. From 9 to 13 in our country, we provide free education, but there they have to pay. Then the whole university system is entirely based on fee levying. Now, having said that, I must say that we are still politically and morally committed to the free education system. Because the essence of the free education system is that no child in this country should be prevented or should have an obstacle in developing his full potential because he doesn't have the money and the wherewithal to complete his education. Successive governments in Sri Lanka have emphasized that, come what may, we are committed to the idea of free education, that every child can realize his or her true potential and should not be deprived of that because that child's parents or relatives cannot afford to give him that education. I think all of us will agree. Particularly Nalanda College. I am writing a book on Anagarika Dharmapala, which should be out in another couple of months. In that I have looked into the contribution of the Buddhist Theosophical Society. Nalanda was set up by the BTS, Buddhist Theosophical Society. First they had Ananda, then Nalanda, then Dharmaraja, Dharmasoka, Mahinda. 100-odd schools were set up, entirely privately. It was only much later, I think in the 1960s, that these schools were taken. Nalanda was established by principals like G.P. Mallasekara, P.D.S. Kularatna. In Ananda and Dharmaraja there was Mr. Mettananda. They all worked as employees of the Buddhist Theosophical Society. Bauddha Parama Vijnanartha Samiti. It was much later that they became state schools. But why were they made into state schools? It was to broaden the opportunities for students who earlier had to pay fees. This may come as a big surprise to you, as a shock to you, but till the 1960s, school children who had to go to Ananda or Nalanda or Dharmaraja had to pay fees. May not be large fees like the other schools, but nevertheless they were fee-levying schools. Then the state took over that responsibility. Now, having taken over the responsibility, we are having a big problem. When you see the large demand for higher education, we cannot meet it through the state education system. For lack of staff, for lack of funds, and also, I don't want to admit it, but I have to say, for lack of motivation. All these things we have to consider. Lack of funds, lack of staff, lack of motivation. Now we are starting universities all over the place, but I think Dr. Sarath Amangam, my name, who is here, will say that it is very difficult to find high quality teachers, even to our existing universities, state universities. It's very difficult. Compared to other countries where there is mobility among teachers of universities, in Sri Lanka there is hardly any mobility. It is like a teaching profession. You come in and you die or retire within that. But in other countries, if you are a good researcher, if you are a good teacher, you can go to other university at a higher rate. If you are a bad teacher, of course, you will go down the line and end up in, I don't want to mention any name, some other university. So, there is a big need for reassessing the teaching system. After all, whether you call it state or private or hybrid, any other name, we are talking of education. We are only classifying that as state and private and so on. But if you look at the totality of needs, because of the inability to meet the aspirations of all those who want higher education, a new, I would say, a second education system has grown in this country. One is the free education system and another, for want of a better word, I will say non-free education system has grown in this country. It's a reality. If you look at the school level, tuition has taken over school instruction. There are more students taking tuition than the number of students, a large number of students who are going to class. Every child today virtually is going to two schools. One is going to his private, to his government school, maybe till 2 o'clock. Then 2 to 4 he is going to a tuition school. So we are running a double parallel system. In fact, many of our educationists never want to recognize that fact. Nobody has written a single article about this double education system that is going on. They are saying this is the state system and all that. But in reality, as a sociologist, I can tell you, at secondary level, tertiary level, at university level, two systems are working. And what is very funny, but in fact really not so funny, is that the secondary system is run by people who are paid by the state to run the primary system. A school teacher who gets a salary from the government up to 2 o'clock in the day, from 2:30 to 6:30 he is running a private school where he is earning money. I mean, so you have really a dual system made worse by the fact that you have the same teachers. Now it has come to the university also. I was appalled to hear that, for example, some university teachers, after they finish the school teaching, their university teaching, they go and give private tuition for the open university and external university students. So they are paid by the government, and then they get whether they are teachers or university teachers, everybody except vice chancellors. They are all running a dual system. So that is what is the reality. Now you have to add another factor to that reality. That is what you all are doing. These large numbers of students who cannot find admission to the state system or don't want to go into the state system. There are a lot of others who have got into the system but are not satisfied with that. They want something else. Or, as always, they may be rich enough to go to another system. Even when we had the height of free education, say under the old Donamo Council, still there would have been rich people who went to Cambridge or Oxford. They could have come to this university, but they said, no, my parents are paying for me, so they go to Oxford or Cambridge or Sorbonne or anywhere they like. Not many, but that was possible. So, although we say that there was this education system, always there was a double system going on in the country. So now with you all, we need to formalize that situation and see that the country gets the best results. How do we formalize it? What is the point of contact? You will also agree that you can't allow this system to go wild. There must be, you have to guarantee the student a certain minimum competence and quality. Otherwise they will also be like Kasipu centers. You can have your legitimate bar and you can have a Kasipu center. We don't want education house to be another Kasipu center where everybody decides to set up a school. That's not in the best interest of the country. So we have evolved an evaluation committee. But that evaluation committee must act fast. I'm getting a lot of complaints that people, when they want to start these universities or affiliated institutions, they have to run here and there, they get sidetracked, they have to, in fact there is no good service. But that should be, I want to ask the UGC to have a special window. If people want to register by very high criteria we can't let down. But within a month, we should be able to evaluate them and tell them yes or no. Many of them say, well, if you can't give it, just say no. Don't keep on dragging us from this campus, that campus, fill that form. bring these letters? No. So I want to impose a rule that within 1 month from the date of application, UGC must say yes or no. That's not difficult. We have to change the evaluation system, the panel system. Now they meet once a week or something, they come 1 week, then they don't come the next week. We can't be there. Till all the backlog is cleared, they must sit every day and take a decision. So, this is the situation, and now I come to the last point which I mentioned when I began. That is science and technology. Today, what do we see? When I went around this exhibition, what struck me? What struck me the most was that the parents and the children are deciding what are the appropriate courses. The state, when they decide, they never give the full weightage to what the parents want or what the students want. Weightage is given either to what the government wants, or what the minister wants, or what officials want. But in the field of education today, the transition has taken place. The people who pay for it, the parents, are the deciding force in education. And that is how it should be. After all, the child belongs to the parent, not to the state. Only in communist countries they think that the child belongs to the state. We think that child belongs to the parents. So the parents must be given the option to decide on the type of education they must give. And today we can see the results of that. When I went round, what were the areas? Science and technology, IT, naval, aerodynamics, all those areas which are job oriented. So you are sending a very good lesson, a very good message to the state system. They have to get real. They have to see what is happening in the real world and adjust their teaching to what the parents want, what the students want, not to what an old professor wants. So that is the lesson I take. There must be an interaction between what is good for the parent and the child, which is mostly job oriented. Mostly. Some parents who are rich may say, no, I don't want science and technology, I want him to be a philosopher. If we can afford to do that, well, okay. But most of the 99.9%, they want to see a job at the end of it. So we have to go into this area of science and technology, which is not adequately met by the state sector. I must say, in the state science and technology sector, in the universities, they are doing a grand job. Under difficult circumstances, they are doing their very best. We have some of the best teachers in science and technology in the science sector. They can compete with the professors who are being brought online or by virtual means into your universities. Our professors are good at that. I am only talking of science and technology, not the other areas. Then, the university system also must be reoriented towards science and technology to follow you. Because you have already indicated to us what are the areas that the parents want. When I went through this exhibition, I got to know. It confirmed what I had always thought, that these are the job-oriented sectors that the parents and children of this country want. So we have to adjust to that. I'm very grateful to you for giving me the privilege of meeting you and seeing these exhibitions. And I want to say that we must have greater interaction between these two sectors. And for a start, you must give me the information which is now not available, which I mentioned to the principal. If you look at all the people in the, I'll call it the non-state sector that you all represent, we don't have a census. We don't know how many students are being enrolled, what are the sectors that they are enrolling in, how much of that teaching is done here and how much will be done abroad, how many people who go out ever come back and teach. All those, please prepare a very brief report, maybe 10-page report, which gives the overview of the non-state sector post-secondary education in this country that will be very useful for this debate. Now everybody is talking, debating, criticizing without statistics. We have some statistics about how many people are coming to the university system, but we have no statistics whatsoever regarding the non-state sector. So please give us that information. And may I once again thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted and I'm learning a lot. It's an educational experience for me. It's very difficult for the higher education minister to say that he's going through another educational experience, but I'm frank enough to admit that. So thank you very much.
Okay,